Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 17 of the Moderately Athletic Podcast. I am your host, Sam Wantock, and as always, I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Tyler Noctical and Ethan Decker. Fellas, how are we doing at mid-season?
Doing pretty good, Tonight, especially me and Sam, coming off of a bar trivia win, feeling good.
Yes. That was a great win.
Yeah, really, really big. Packers let me down, but we won't be talking about any trade line things in this episode. We'll just be doing mid-season awards. So maybe we'll do another trade deadline thing later. But
trust me. We'll talk about the trade deadline in a later episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Decker, how are you doing?
Well, you said at midseason, Sam, how am I feeling? I'm feeling pretty darn good. I'm feeling even better after the Vikings acquired T.J. Hawkinson yesterday. So I'm very excited for what this trade can bring for us. So I am doing pretty fantastic.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat as you, but same boat as both of you. Trivia win, Vikings, big signing, good stuff going on right now. But we're not talking about just our lives or the Vikings or Packers in particular. We're talking about league-wide things going on right now. We're going to talk about who we think should get mid-season awards, such as the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, the Rookie Subsidiaries, as well as Comeback Player of the Year and Coach of the Year. And with time, we'll talk about our top 3 most surprising teams and our top 3 most disappointing teams of this year. Now let's get right into it. All right. So do we want to start with MVP, or should we work away from the bottom up?
Nah, let's just get it out of the way.
Okay, because that's fair, because this should be like the most unanimous pick of all of the spots. MVP. Tyler, do you want to start?
Yeah, so before the year started, I had predicted Justin Herbert. I had really high hopes for all of this Chargers team, but especially Herbert. But that offensive line is just bad. He's got to get dump outs to Austin Eckler pretty much every other play. His wide receiving core is absolutely depleted. So obviously I can't give it to him. And, the favorite going into the season was Josh Allen, and it was Josh Allen for a good reason. You boys put him down, and, after week 8, it's a two-man race, 1A, 1B, but if I were to choose, I think I'd go Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes as of right now. Josh Allen just, besides, the Chiefs game, he just looks, and the Chiefs and Dolphins, I should say, those 2 losses, he looks just unstoppable, and the Bills do just in general. And when he has the ball in his hands, it feels like he can do anything. He can make any play. Stats back it up, team record backs it up. So yeah, if I had to go with any player right now, it'd have to be Josh Allen.
Yeah, and you also just look at how much the Bills in general are just blowing out teams whenever they play. No team has had more blowouts this year than the Bills. You could say it's a team stat, but I also believe that that's also just the man leading them. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, Decker and I had both picked Josh Allen to start the year, and I'm not changing it at all. Josh Allen, still that guy. Decker, I'd imagine you're in the same boat as the two of us.
Yeah, I'm still in the same boat. And at the beginning of the year, I picked the Bills to go 15-2. Right now, they're 6-1. So, I don't know if they'll end up hitting 15-2. But big reason behind it was I thought Josh Allen would have a monster year, and that's how it's kind of been playing out. Every week, besides this Packers week, was he was kind of a little bit off with the 2 picks he had, but still very good for Josh Allen. Every other game besides that, he's been on a just a grade A level, and he's doing fantastic this year, taking another step in his great career so far. So I'm sticking with it for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I would say
I thought that the Bills lost to the Chiefs. I did not. That's why I said Chiefs in that one, but yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah,
I forgot that they won that one.
Yeah, now you're good. I was a little confused, but
Yeah, my
I
bad.
didn't feel confident enough to challenge you on that one. Don't worry. It was just most of your
Yeah.
knowledge went to trivia tonight. So
Right,
don't
yeah.
worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Moving on,
Well,
we have the
I will. I just to play
sorry.
devil's advocate, I will say, is question. I'll throw it back to you guys. Is Patrick Mahomes doing more, or just as much with less? Would you guys say? I mean, you know, Bills' only weak point, I would say, and it's not even that bad, is their offensive line, right? And their lack of a rush game, but kind of goes hand in hand. But, you know, Tyreek leaves the Chiefs, the best offensive weapon in the league, leaves your team, and you're just as potent of an offense. Does that have to do with the play calling or like the playmaker in Patrick Mahomes? Like me personally, the only reason why I don't have Patrick Mahomes totally out of this race is because I do think he's doing more with less. Like I think that he's playing at a similar level to Josh Allen, but he has less, and that kind of plays into like the valuable part, not just who's taking the worst team to a better record. And if it was like the most valuable, like which person like carries a team, I think I would have to go with Patrick Mahomes, but just pure stats and pure domination, I would have to go with Josh Allen here. But what do you guys think about doing more with less here with Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, I get what you're saying 100% about like him doing more with less. But to be entirely honest, I feel like it's really more just like the scheming that Reed has done with this offense that has turned their plethora of speedy guys into essentially a Tyreek Hill. Like you look at how, what's his name? Guy who's fast, he's been there forever on the Chiefs. What's his name?
Hardman?
Yeah, Mecole. He's like back when Hill was like the totally just the no contest fast guy on that team. Mecole played little to no role, and then now there was like, I'm blanking on which team they played, but he had like a bunch of yards, 3 touchdowns. They're just finding ways to take the speedy people that they have now and turning them, like, sure, they can't do it consistently, but there's always like a Juju or there's an MVS or there's a Mecole that can be the Hill for that week. So while I certainly do think that if you don't have Josh Allen, you probably have Mahomes, I do think that it's also very much a scheme thing for him because to jump back to Josh Allen, he has the rushing ability that maybe it's simply out of need because the Bills don't have great running backs by any means. He has the rushing factor that I think also really puts him over the edge.
Yeah, that's true.
For me personally.
Yeah.
Decker, do you have anything to add?
I kind of agree with you both. I mean, I think Patty too, just being able to, it can be play calling all you want, but it's Patty making the throws and making the plays, and those receivers, creating time, and Patty back there in the pocket creating time for these receivers to get open as well. I mean, Patty, everybody was all worried in the media world about how he would do without Tyreek, but Kelsey's a great 1A, and Patty alone has brought back Juju, who for the past 2-3 years here is falling off entirely when those last years at Pittsburgh, and now Patty's kind of bringing Juju back into relevance. MVS was for the most part a big bust in Green Bay, and now Patty's hitting him on major deep balls almost every week consistently. So I think that too, but the Bills and Chiefs are kind of the same as far as Bills O-line's a little bit worse, sure, but there's been some Chiefs big time tackles and that who haven't been playing good, and the rushing attacks kind of on both teams is very meh. So I kind of agree with you both, but I think it would have been fun if Lamar could have kept it up this year, like if he would have kept up his first 3 weeks up until the point we're at now, because that would have been a real competition. Yeah. I also think you could also throw in, if we want to throw a third in for fun, I think Hurts you could make a case for Hurts to also be MVP. So.
Yeah.
So if
that's true.
I got a question. If we'll kind of extend this MVP talks a little bit, but if it wasn't based on stats and it was purely like valuable to the team, like like wins fringe on this person, who do you think it would go to?
That's tough. I think if I were to choose that, it's definitely a two man race based off that criteria for me, and that's just teams that they aren't winning maybe every game, like like the person who I might choose for this firsthand, but like they would not have won the games that they have won if not for this person, and that two-man race would be between Saquon with the 6-2 Giants or Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I both those teams have, let's face it, lackluster QBs. Daniel Jones, he's having a career year. Jones is, but it's still pretty not okay. It's still kind of bad. And Jacoby Brissett's nothing to be super happy about.
Sure.
So those guys, I think, carry the offense in a way that most players don't, and I think that it's a two-man race between those two if you're not doing like a QB.
Yeah.
Decker, your thoughts?
What was the question? It was non QBs that are kind of could be MVP candidates, kind of carrying their offense.
Sure. Yeah. Or defense.
Oh, defense too.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Just basing it off team success. Well, I think defensive wise, man, I could almost include this and almost put the entire Dallas defense, but specifically Micah Parsons, because man, I mean, Cooper Rush wasn't fantastic in a lot of those games. He did enough, but that defense was so special during that time, where Micah Parsons was playing out of his mind. But I do kind of have to agree with Sam. I mean, Saquon. In the weeks that, sure, Danny Dimes had 1 or 2 weeks in there that were serviceable to get enough of a win where Saquon didn't have to do as much. But a lot of these wins for the Giants have been Saquon just putting that team on his back. And, yeah, Saquon would have to be up there. I think so. Yeah. Chubb too a little bit. But,
he's running behind a fantastic offensive line.
Yeah.
That's a fair point, yeah.
And credit where credit's due, Amari Cooper is actually having a very solid year so far. So
yeah,
it's not like it's been
quietly,
just Chubb.
yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely worth the 5th-round pick that they gave up to get him.
Exactly.
That's for sure. Yeah, and so moving on, we have the Defensive Player of the Year. Decker, I think you can start because I feel like if anyone kept their pick from the start of the year to now, it's probably you. So I'm going to have you start.
I did. I kept mine with Micah Parsons. He has 8 sacks right now. He's second in the NFL in sacks. And just especially if you look at what he did this past week against Chicago, where he knocked the ball out, forced the fumble. I believe he did force the fumble on, what was it, Montgomery?
He did, yeah. Montgomery.
Just the pursuit to go get the ball and then not let up. I mean, a lot of that was Fields not even trying, because Fields jumped over him and just kind of went off to the sideline. But Parsons, the entire pursuit and hustle of that entire play just shows how his IQ of the game and just how special he is to know what's going on. But my God, you can put any O lineman on him and it seems like Parsons will just blow right by them. It seems like no O lineman's just a mismatch against Micah. We're the benefit of the O lineman. So this kid is just so special. And I kind of was a little bit hesitant making the pick at the beginning of the year because, how many players actually win defensive rookie there and then just immediately second year jump to defensive player of the year. But Micah Parsons has just took it right into his hands and just been phenomenal this year. So I'm sticking by mine.
Because I definitely think that I think I gave you too much flack for saying it was crazy when you think about the fact that his rookie of the year season could have also been a player of the year season. That is incredibly uncommon. Yeah. So really but because Tom and I had both chose Myles Garrett as our player of the year once before the season started. I certainly think that there was merit behind our choice, but I definitely think that Garrett probably shouldn't be in the conversation anymore. And I've also chosen Parsons at this point. I just think that that play that you mentioned was phenomenal. And I just think that he brings a lot to that team. he could be a lot like an Aaron Donald in a couple of years, for just like multiple player of the years, because he's just like he makes that defense so much better. He's not a role player, he is the player, to put it, I guess, in a weird way. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd have to disagree with you there, Sam. I think Myles Garrett is the defensive player of the year, and he might not lead the league in sacks. He has just one less sack than he's at 7.5, not 8.5. He's got the most total pressures. He's got the most QB hurries, right? And he's up in the top 10 for QB hits. So as it goes for like having a good pass rushing season, and he's not to mention he's also the highest graded defensive player in the NFL right now. So I think that Myles Garrett is having a actual phenomenal season so far, and I think he's kind of getting overshadowed. I think it's starting to become a little almost like a voting fatigue if it were the end of the season. Like, Myles Garrett had a phenomenal year, but this new young guy, he also had a good year, so we got to give it to him, right? I think that we've seen Myles Garrett put up numbers like this before, and we're used to it. That we're not like really like appreciating the greatness that he's doing right now. Like, he's an absolute beast, and he's really good against the run too. And I'm not sure how effective Micah is against the run. I'm sure he's really good too. I gotta look that up. But yeah, I'd stick to my guns, and I'd still say Myles Garrett. But actually, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, they're like 1A, 1B for me right here. But a close second, if I had to not pick either of those guys, would be Patrick Surtain. He's having a very, very phenomenal year for that Broncos secondary. He is just playing out of his mind. And for a second-year cornerback, it's really, really impressive. He might be the best cornerback in the league in a year or two. So, yeah, I would say he's a very, very close second.
Yeah, that is definitely part of the issue when you look at like cornerbacks, is that they don't really have like the stat sheets that
Right.
most people will look at. I mean, to be totally honest with you, I wasn't aware that Garrett's stat sheet was that good this year. I might still give Micah the edge regardless, but I think I would rescind me saying that he's currently out of the conversation.
I think
with that.
yeah, I think that's
with that-
I think
with
that's a
that- with
fair
that resume.
rescindment right there.
Yeah.
Because
Would you,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll throw this one out just real quick. Could you guys make a case for even Von Miller being in that conversation?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I didn't even think
'Cause
about
he's-
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Having a
playing out of
phenomenal
his
year.
mind, and like, he's how old is he now?
He's like 33, and he makes
33.
all the plays when it matters.
Yeah.
It's honestly
When
incredible.
when it
'Cause-
matters, that's important to say. Yeah, definitely.
Because currently he's actually edge rushers. He is currently the first against the run and 20th in pass. So
Really.
yeah, so he's
Well, yeah,
he's
let's
great.
see.
Yeah.
Micah's
Yeah.
actually 30th in run, and Garrett was 43. But
Oh,
Miles does
Maybe
have
not.
the best pass rush. So
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's tough now. But I guess it goes to, what do you value more for a defensive player of the year? Is it in the pass happy league? Is it the better pass rushing grade? Is it the better all around grade? Is it the better run defense grade? Or is it better to have good coverage? And I think that's why, especially defensive player of the year, it can be very, very tough to evaluate who gets the award, because it's not like obviously an offensive lineman has to have it's not like an offensive lineman that can like they're not going to have like this phenomenal year and then get offensive player of the year, but just because it's just not part of the program, but a fantastic cornerback season is obviously going to look much different than an edge rusher's year. So just in that perspective, it's really, really interesting going to see how at the end of the year, I think Patrick Surtain might continue this really good year of playing. And what do the voters kind of take into account more? Is it pass rush or is it pass coverage? So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I definitely do think that if you were to look at it seems like whenever it's a cornerback, it's always the interceptions that come.
I think so
first,
too.
Because when you,
Yeah.
when look at last year, Diggs, who gave up so many yards, had 11 picks, and people that aren't even Cowboys fans were like, "Oh, it's Diggs, easy."
Right,
He has
yeah.
11 picks. Yeah. So, I think that picks might be a deciding factor. There aren't really a lot of clear cut leaders like last year.
I would
so maybe that
I would have to agree. Yeah, there's no. I mean, Watt isn't going out and getting, 22 sacks again this year, so it'll be a little bit more difficult to tell.
definitely.
I still think that this
Yeah.
one is wide open to take. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah. Moving on, perhaps the category with a recent injury that is equally as open, we have the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think that someone here might still include it, but if an injury didn't happen, I think that Brees Hall would have been the clear and favorite in this category. But now, with his unfortunate ACL tear, we have there's a group that is open for the taking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Decker, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start. This one was back and forth between two players, and ultimately I went with the guy that hasn't started since day one, but it's just been so explosive. I'm going with Kenneth Walker. This kid is, I wish he would have been starting from day one. I mean, obviously he was coming off that hernia surgery, so he wasn't physically available those first 1 or 2 weeks, I believe, but Penny going down really helped him out because, obviously if Penny didn't go out, he wouldn't be shining like he is. But man, he's just so explosive, and he's looking like one of the steals of this most recent draft. Just the way he's running, and that Seahawks offensive line is the tackles are pretty all right, and Cross and Lucas, but that entire unit is still pretty. Still has got a way to go to reach their full potential, and he's just finding the holes and he's just hitting them, and he's getting big runs and big touchdowns. It's really fun to watch, and I was thinking about obviously going with like a favorite right now, which could have been Damian Pierce, but I just had to go with Kenneth Walker. I just love him too much so far.
So, can I ask, is this like a prediction of who's going to get it at the end of the year, or who you would give it to right now?
Right now, I'd give it to Kenneth Walker.
After like 2 games of playing?
I think I'm still going to give it to Kenneth Walker.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you can. It's tough that because it's clear that he has you can see he has a very clear path to win it at the end of the season. But 2 games, like right now, if we're deciding, it's just not like you can't give it to him after 2 games, right?
I think okay. I'm looking back to week 5, so this past 4 games. 5 touchdowns, 4 games. And
Okay.
Pierce, I don't know. I gotta look back at Pierce's stats, but
Sure.
keep going.
Well,
you can go.
Well,
Tyler.
speaking of Pierce, I think that's who I would give it to. And, when we did our predictions, I said Watson. That's a bust. He can't see the fucking field. But my hot take before the season was that Dameon Pierce was dark horse offensive rookie of the year. And I'm going to stick with that, actually. I think that, running in Houston and putting up good stats cannot be easy. Like, they have a very average offensive line, definitely bottom half, but to have they have very negative game scripts most of the time, but he's still putting up very impressive numbers, right? So just based off that fact alone, I think that offensive rookie and defensive rookie are purely stat-based awards, and I just, based off stats, I think I would give it to Dameon Pierce here.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as you, which you did touch on it slightly. I do want to go back and talk about our our offensive rookie of the year picks to start the year, because I think in a lot of ways they are quite hilarious. Decker, you are probably the closest, but still, no shot.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you picked Traylon Burks, and of the 3 of us, he might have the best chance to win, but it's still a 1% chance to a 0% chance because you picked Tyler, you picked Christian Watson, which, at least they throw the ball to him.
Yeah.
I mean, I picked Sky
Just
Moore.
got to get healthy.
And that was
yeah. Sky Moore can't see the field. He's just not good
No.
enough.
I mean, I thought that he would simply because their receivers weren't good enough to
Right.
do it, but
Right.
it certainly seems like they are quite good enough.
Yep.
But yeah, but then to kind of piggyback off you, Tyler, I've also picked Dameon Pierce. Call me biased as a fantasy manager of Pierce, but I mean, dude looks by far the best. I'm obviously Brees Hall, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
If he stayed healthy,
I mean, I
pick
was.
him.
I think I was debating putting Brees Hall here too. I mean, he strung together a couple really impressive games, but the injury just.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you got to give it to Dameon Pierce after that.
Yeah. So I'd agree. Pierce,
Also,
100%.
did we miss Offensive Player of the Year? Did we cover that? I don't think we did.
We did not.
Oh,
Yeah.
we didn't. Oh, you know what? I think I think I thought we did. Okay.
Yeah.
But to jump back to Offensive Player of the Year, because I thought we did, because you, Tyler, asked a question about
Right.
the best QB player.
Yeah.
I told you Nick Chubb, and that's what I would go with. I think that Nick Chubb as the Offensive Player of the Year, I mean, he has by far the best rushing yard stats. He has the most touchdowns. He's not a factor in the receiving game. That is the truth. But as a pure runner, he's honestly unmatched. I think that he should get Offensive Player of the Year. You could make the argument that he has a great line to run behind, but I think that that's the case with almost every single Offensive Player of the Year winner. Of course, they have good groups around them. So I think that's a silly thing to bring up. I'd say Saquon or Travis Kelce would be my close seconds, but I'd go with Nick Chubb. Tyler, who do you think is Offensive Player of the Year?
I mean, it's Andrew Thomas, guys. It's clearly Andrew Thomas. No,
Complete
but
turnaround.
yeah, I mean, man, I just don't. I know he's got a really high grade on PFF. I know he's playing out of his mind. He's the only good offensive lineman on that team, but I mean, can you really give Offensive Player of the Year to a tackle? I don't think so. You gotta give it to a guy that's putting up stats. But I will say, as I'm looking at it now, through 8 games, he has not allowed 1 sack. He's only allowed 1 QB hit and 8 hurries. That's actually
That is
really,
great.
really impressive. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, anyways, there was really, I guess, 3 guys I was kind of going back and forth on. That's Chubb, Barkley, and Tyreek Hill. And, Tyreek
Ooh.
Hill, he only has 2 touchdowns on the season. But he has over 200 more yards than the next receiver. And I think that alone is kind of what's giving him the Offensive Player of the Year. And not to mention, he's playing with Tyreek, and he's got Jalen Waddle on the same team. So I think just like that is so freaking impressive to what he's doing. He almost has 1,000 yards halfway through the season. He's on pace. He's almost on pace for 2,000 receiving yards. That is absolutely insane. So I think that alone is what I'm just because I know Decker's probably not going to take him. I just want to highlight how crazy of a year Tyreek Hill is having.
I definitely do think that that's a good thing to bring up, especially when you consider the fact that for 3 games he played with Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also equally impressive.
He's
The
QB
fact
proof. Yeah, he's QB proof.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Because you had mentioned that to me on the walkover. Yeah, he is QB proof.
Thank you for
sorry,
remembering that.
Yes, the walkover to trivia, I should mention.
Which we
To
won.
give context.
Which we won.
to our, yes, which we won.
Yes.
We're the best. Decker, who'd you pick?
I'm actually glad, Sam, that you picked Chubb because I kind of thought when I had made the pick, I thought I might have been reaching just a tad. But I mean, I went with Nick Chubb too because, man, yes, he is probably the most gifted runner in the league right now. Just what he can when he has the ball in his hands when he's running, there's not a whole lot this man can't do. And like you said, O-line plays a big factor in that. He's a phenomenal O-line. Two of the top 3 guards are on Cleveland. But it's just like stats wise too. There's only been 2 games this year where he hasn't had a rushing touchdown, and every other has been either 1, 2, or 3. So Chubb's got to be my pick. Just what this man puts up.
Yeah.
I mean, stats and not, it's both so good, and I just went.
Yeah.
I went with it.
Yeah, when you look at any running back, it's definitely, I mean, it's always in tandem with their line. I mean, it's a very cohesive kind of group of players when you think about a O-line and the running back. So I think it's always kind of something to take into consideration when you're picking a player of the year and it's a running back.
I mean, just
Now,
sorry. I mean,
very good.
If I wasn't going to go with Tyreek, I think I would have to go with Nick Chubb. I mean, averaging 5.6 yards an attempt is crazy. He's got 10 touchdowns on the year, just south of 850 yards, right? So, I mean, he's a little due. I think he's due. I don't think, has he gotten a rushing title yet? No, because Derrick Henry's popped off. But,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, man, he's just having such an impressive year. But, I'm sure actually, Cooper Kupp might turn it on the back half of the year. He's a receptions machine, right? Justin Jefferson, now with TJ Hawkinson, might be a little bit open more. But, yeah, I think it's, as of right now, I think it's a two-man race between Nick Chubb and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, it's definitely whoever. I mean, if either, but whoever breaks 2,000 yards this year, if it's either of them, obviously, like Hill's the favorite to do that. But if anyone does, I think that's going to be the person who wins.
I think Derrick Henry could work his way into it too.
I think I was gonna
Henry too,
I was gonna bring that up and totally forgot. Yeah, Derrick Henry is if you have a 212 yard, 16-yard game against any team, yeah, you might be back. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see who runs their way to the rushing title this year between these two. Still not counting out Saquon, obviously, but
no, you can.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping back down, we're going to go to Defensive Rookie of the Year. And, Tyler, we had talked about this on the walk down the trivia, which we won. And as I was trying to think of players that I think were better, and I really struggled to think of one.
Me too. Me too, honestly. I think it's...
So I'm going to let...
Sorry.
So I think I know who you still went with.
I see what you're doing.
And I think we picked the same person. So I'm going to let you explain.
Excuse me. I think that this is the only category that's just a dead ringer here, and that's Sauce Gardner. He's like the 4th highest rated cornerback in the league. Oddly enough, he's behind fellow rookie Jack Jones, but I think Jack Jones has played like half the snaps that Sauce has. I'm going to actually check on that. But, none of the... You would think it would go to a pass rusher, but none of the pass rushers, especially the first rounders, are kind of playing up to the hype that we thought. Hutchinson has been on and off, but, what's his name? Trayvon Walker, he's also been on and off, but Sauce Gardner, let's see, he's been targeted almost twice as much. Let's see, has a lower reception percentage than Jack Jones, given up less yards. It says he's given up a touchdown on PFF, but I don't think that. They might have given that one against the Bengals on him. But personally, I think that was a blown coverage on the safety. But he's played pass coverage snaps or pass snaps 324 to Jack Jones 169. So there's a stark difference there in amount of attempts and just plays that they have in between them. So Sauce Gardner has just been absolutely locked down this year. And so I think that he's just the easy defensive rookie of the year right now.
Yeah. So I'll take this moment to crack open my sparkling water because I just want to cut somebody off while I do it. But yeah, Sauce. Decker?
I also picked Sauce. I
Yeah.
was going back and forth between Sauce and Jack Jones because Jack Jones has been playing very well too. But
Yes.
Sauce has just been the more locked down. He's playing every snap basically, and he's been just phenomenal. I was also thinking about making a case for Devin Lloyd in Jacksonville because he's also been having a very solid rookie year.
Yeah.
But I know like preseason wise we did all pick pass rushers to win this.
Mhm.
And like Tyler was saying, I mean, none of them have showed up. Like Hutchinson's best game was a 3-sack game against Washington, but it was basically Wentz just kind of falling into his lap.
Yes.
And Trayvon Walker was kind of like the same thing, where those first 3 weeks he was, playing good, but now lately, as the Jags team has been falling, you've been hearing less of his name. So the entire pass rushers have just been pretty off for the most part, and even your pick Tyler before the season and Thibodeau. Had that very nice game against Baltimore, that strip sack on
Yep.
Lamar. But, other than that, I feel like I don't hear him as much.
Right.
So these
And
corners
he's
have
been injured. To be fair,
Yeah.
he's been injured.
But yeah, so these corners have been really sticking out. And it was
Yeah.
it was a lot of back and forth thinking between Sauce and Jack Jones. But as like you said.
It's not even like just those two. I mean, Tariq Woolen has really come on too.
Yeah, Tariq
like
Woolen's
yes.
been great.
so
Seattle,
it
yeah.
could be a 3-way race at the end of the season between 3 cornerbacks, which is really, really interesting, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, sorry, Deck. I'll let you finish your thought about Sauce Gardner.
So Sauce has just been the reason why was because Sauce has been more locked down while he's been out there pretty much every snap. But
Yeah.
like you said, also Tyson Campbell and Jacksonville
Oh yeah,
is
Tyson.
actually as a corner, he's having a very solid year.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing so. All these corners, these secondary players are sticking out.
I also feel like a little bit of, I guess, popularity has to play in it too. Like Sauce Gardner, he was the 6th overall. Is that right?
Was it fourth? Was it fourth?
It was fourth.
Four?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was
Yes.
Trayvon, Hutchinson, Stingley,
Sauce.
Sauce.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's kind of going to play into his favor at the end of the season. But I mean, if he keeps playing like this, then I mean the play speaks for itself, and he deserves it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think it's the most fascinating part about this entire draft was that going into the draft, this was considered like the edge rusher, like great, like this is the draft for edge rushers, and it's been all cornerbacks so far for actual accolades that could be won this year. I mean, sure, maybe down the line these edge rushers become the future, but as of right now, it's quite interesting that it's been all secondary.
yeah, it's an interesting point you brought up. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, top 2, you might have thought that Thibodeau might have gone 3, but yeah, definitely a really interesting point you brought up there, Sam. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to make our audience stimulated with thought. I'm quite the scholar myself. Moving on, we have comeback player of the year. I tried to pick someone that might have been slightly different. Maybe I'm a sheep and I picked someone that we all picked. But I'm excited to hear. Decker, who'd you pick?
I think this is obviously the most clear choice. I could be wrong. You guys could have different ones, but for me, it's got to be Geno Smith. I mean, he said it week 1. They tried writing me off, but I didn't write back, and that's been the entire season, the entire motto for him all year. I mean, he keeps proving us wrong from the beginning of the year every single week, and he keeps playing just phenomenally. And he's helped the Seahawks team get to 5-3, which is nobody would have thought. I mean, most of us thought. I know Sam, you had him 2-15.
2-15. Yeah.
Tyler had him at 4-13. I had him at 5-12. So for them to be at 5-3 right now is phenomenal, and Geno is a huge part in that. And a case could be made, yes, for Saquon, because the big, he's had his injury problems for sure in the past. This year he's been able to, knock on wood, be able to stay healthy so far all year, and has been playing great. But man, just the story alone and the way the team success has been going through 8 weeks here, I think Geno's got to be the clear-cut choice for me.
Yeah, I to slightly build off what you said, I think what makes this entire new quarterback in Seattle thing the most interesting is that we just learn basically weekly how much Russell Wilson's old teammates didn't like him
Yeah.
at all. It's I think that's the and then like Gino, it seems like he's more of a guy you can rally behind, for sure. It's something that no one, I think the analyst scene could have seen coming. So I think it's pretty interesting. But I did pick somebody different for this award. I picked Mr. CMC. You could argue that he's a comeback player because of his injury history. He's still playing very well, but he's also a comeback player because he got out of the dumpster fire that was Carolina, and he's just plopped himself in this beautiful situation in San Francisco. I mean, it's a perfect amalgamation of just like versatile players that he fits in very well with, and perhaps it's slightly recency bias with the fact that he had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown all in one game. He's absolutely phenomenal. Last player that was Tomlinson in 2005. I don't know. I mean, Todd Decker, respectfully, I think that CMC is the only right answer for this question.
Okay.
Tyler, who do you think?
I mean, what do we count as a comeback player? Is it a person that has played bad in the past and has suddenly found his groove? Because, I mean, yeah, I would consider Geno Smith to be a comeback player in that sense, but in my opinion, it's more of like injury, who came back from an injury and is still the same person. Now, what was Saquon's injury last year?
Ankle.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. And, obviously, Ben sidelined him for the rest of the season after week 6, 7? I can't remember exactly, but
Something like that, yeah.
So serious injury. Christian McCaffrey, injury bug, obviously, but before I preface or say this, two things. Do you guys who Nick Gates is? Do you guys know who that is?
Oh, he was that center for the Giants that almost lost his leg last year.
Okay, I'm glad you knew that because I looked him up. I looked up the Vegas odds for comeback player of the year, and sitting at the 5th best odds is Nick Gates. So I looked up Nick Gates, and this was one of the first headlines to come up. Nick Gates makes long-awaited Giants return after 410 days and 7 surgeries. Holy shit!
God.
Yeah, I saw the story on CBS pod post on Instagram. It was about like his entire journey, about like he thought he was gonna lose his leg, all those surgeries, and he finally returned this past week to the field.
Wow. Too bad he's a bum and plays for the Giants.
Yeah.
Unlike this other bum who plays for the Giants. I mean, it's Saquon Barkley, man. He's so valuable to that team. He's putting up super impressive numbers behind a very bad offensive line, other than Andrew Thomas. To me, it's the other kind of clear cut as of right now. But this, honestly, as I'm looking at this might be the most interesting award for the rest of the season because, in the top 7 or 8, you got Saquon, Geno, Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers, Derrick Henry, who's come on, Nick Gates, I'm not sure if he's going to win it, Travis Etienne, Gus Edwards, all these guys, these guys are they could. Those are some serious firepower guys. So I think that this is Saquon is favored right now. I think by the end of the year, this is going to look drastically different. So I'm actually really excited to see this. But kind of going off of the Nick Gates thing, is it going to be the thing who suffered the worst injury and was able to come back, kind of like how Alex Smith was able to come back after that injury? He had he didn't put up good stats, but he still won it because he almost lost his leg. Is the same thing going to be said for Nick Gates? Is the same thing going to be said for Brian Robinson, who got shot in the leg and returned 4 months later? He's not even on this list.
4 weeks later.
What?
It was 4 weeks later.
No, it was not.
Oh yeah, 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was. It was 4 weeks. You said 4 months. It was 4 weeks.
It was not 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
well,
5.
I mean,
It wasn't
that's
4
No,
months.
or he was ruled out like the first 4, and then it was like what week?
Yeah,
Well,
remember we
Five.
drafted our fantasy draft, and then like 4 days later he got shot, and then
It was no, it's
back
the
in
day
week
of that
4.
that.
Yeah, but
Oh,
that
the
was
day of the draft.
Yeah.
wasn't that
Oh,
4
that was the
weeks
draft.
before the season started? So when did I'm googling this? When did Brian Robinson get shot?
So he returned. It was week. So to help you out, it was week
Okay,
5.
but still,
he returned.
regardless, like
Yeah, I'm not saying
yeah,
it's not
regardless,
impressive.
It's not 4 months. It wasn't 4 months regardless.
Okay. Come on, Google. When did he get shot? Okay. Oh, it says 6 weeks after his. Okay. Okay. Fair.
That's not 4 months.
So I guess that's impressive, getting shot in the leg.
That's a good point. too,
But,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's, no offense to him, I feel like it just sounds worse than it actually was, because clearly, 6 weeks after a significant injury, no one would be, better if it was truly significant. So, not that
is
it's
he better? He's playing like shit, honestly.
well, I mean, it's not a very positive game script for him there, but yeah, no, and you're right, yeah, not playing that good, but yeah, I expected him to be on this list, and he wasn't, but yeah, to close it all up, Saquon Barkley is, I think, the comeback player of the year. Just that Giants team is just so impressive, man. And sorry, Nick Gates, if you're listening. Sorry, I didn't know who you are. Congrats. Very impressive. Way to not give up on your dreams.
Of course.
I'm glad we
Yeah.
all had different picks because before the season, me and Wantalk both picked Jameis Winston, and that was by far the biggest
Oh,
lift. So
yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah. I mean, Tyler, we have some time, so because you did prompt a question that I think you forgot that you prompted, was, do you think Nick Gates has a chance because of the significance of his injury?
No,
Because of what
he's an
happened to
offensive
Alex
lineman. No.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, yeah, he doesn't have the media coverage because
Yeah.
he's not a quarterback.
There's no way.
So-
No.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick Gates, but that's the truth. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It
All right.
is.
Final award, we have Coach of the Year, and I'm gonna start.
Sorry, I just looked back at what Decker predicted.
yeah, I continue though.
Oh,
Sam.
for Coach of the Year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what'd you put?
I had Nathaniel Hackett. I was all in, man. I was like, this Broncos team, man. This defense was elite. They had the players. I was like, man, he's gonna take this offense.
Okay, I've had it. Okay, so I have had a few drinks, but that was in no way a sarcastic laugh. But like Decker, to be totally honest, we'd all agree with you. Tyler said Hackett was the second best coach in the West.
I did say that.
I remember saying that the only thing holding this explosive offense back was its defense, and the only thing keeping them in games is their defense. We totally whiffed on this.
I
game.
really thought Hackett was going to do wonders with this offense before the year. I thought there was going to be so much good things, especially with Javante, obviously the injury, but these receivers. I thought he was going to just, I thought once he let Russ cook, I was like, oh, there's nothing going to be stopping them. And now here we are, week 9. I was I was ready for him to get fired. I was ready for them to lose in London and then him get fired.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, because he would have been, okay, sure, Matt Rule got fired. Mm-hmm. I think we kind of forgot about that, but yeah, Matt Rule got fired, but technically Hackett would have been like the first head coach that like had any promise this year that would have been fired if they lost to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy to think about.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is. But, yes, sorry. But, like, yeah. We collectively just kind of whiffed on the Broncos entirely.
I think, well,
Yeah.
Colin Cowherd had them winning the division, so.
Uh-huh.
And that guy knows
Yeah,
ball.
but we're not paid million. Oh, yeah.
Armstrong.
Yeah, Armstrong.
Armstrong, yeah.
Yeah, but we're not paid millions to know ball.
Yeah.
We do this truly out of the kindness and the love for football
Yes, we do.
in our hearts. But yeah, So I'm going to start.
I think that's the name of the episode. The love of ball.
For the love of ball. Yes. That's a good name.
Creative ideas flowing now.
Yeah, we do.
For Sam.
Yeah, of course. But yeah. So for this one, I took a similar route with my comeback player of the year. I didn't want to pick the same person. So I'm going to sound kind of like Adam Rank, but just know that if I had to be super serious, I would pick Nick Sirianni. But I picked KOC simply because, yeah, Vikings are 6-1. Sure, I had them at 12-5, but I would never have thought 6-1 was in the realm of possibility at the time. Games that this very similar Vikings squad. Sure, they added a Jordan Hicks. I'm on a Z Smith that have been very helpful, but it's relatively the same group of guys. On these one possession games that they would have lost last year, they are winning. Maybe not convincingly, but it's still the coaching that really gets them there, and I think that's really impressive. I would still pick Nick in any betting situation, but I just wanted to make sure that KOC gets his due diligence because I think he's in the top 3, no question. Tyler, who'd you pick?
I did Sirianni, man. I mean, when you're undefeated at the halfway point, it's hard to pick anyone else. Even if I know Decker's probably gonna pick Dable here, but even if you have a team outperforming, what they thought, any team that is at 8-0 is outperforming what you thought, and going into the season. There were still people who were skeptical about the Eagles. It was.
I was.
This. Some people are like, oh, but the Eagles have a stacked roster. Yeah, but there were still question marks at the beginning of the season, mostly around Jalen Hurts. So, to me, it's like, it's a bad argument to say like, oh, they have the best roster in football. Of course, they're going to be undefeated, or of course, like, you can't give it to Sirianni because they have the best team. I mean, yeah, they do, but they, like, as I just said, there was still, like, not everyone was certain on their success, and even I wasn't. I was doubtful of Hurts. I thought this team fringes on him, and apparently, it really doesn't. Like, this defense is crazy good, and this offensive line. Hurts just has to just complete the short passes, like I said at the beginning of the year, and that's what he's doing. A.J. Brown's been a monster, 3-touchdown game last week. But, yeah, I think just any undefeated team, it's got to go to them. So, yeah, I got to give it to Sirianni here.
Yeah. I mean, I did preface it a lot by saying that Sirianni should win. Because I had them at 15-2. To going into this year, and sure, I think I was one of the more optimistic people about the Hurts situation. But yeah, like you mentioned, Hurts doesn't need to be outstanding. Like, this roster, I mean, on paper was really good, and they're doing exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Decker, who'd you pick?
Well, real quick, before Decker,
you can go.
Sam, looking back at your predictions, you had a lot of teams at their floors or their ceilings. So I think you might have got the Eagles right at 15-2, just because I think that they're going to hit their ceiling this year. Dak probably got their floor at 9-8.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, Lions could still go 9-1, man. I don't know.
Jesus.
Finish out the year, yeah.
They could. They could go 9-1.
I'm surprised
Decker,
before the
who'd
year.
you pick?
I'm surprised before the year, Sam, you didn't have Campbell winning Coach of the Year. But anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't I?
No, you had Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles.
Oh.
So
I think I had Man Campbell, but you bullied me out of it. That's so unfortunate.
That sounds actually about right, yeah. But yeah, like Sam said, if I was a betting man, I would pick, obviously Sirianni to win, to keep it kind of, different between all of us. I am going to go with Dable, but I would say that I think the top 5 right now have to be, top 5 or 6 would have to be obviously Sirianni, Dable, KOC. I would throw Pete Carroll in there. I'd throw Robert Saleh in there. which is a shame because I know, Sam, last year you had Salah winning it all as a rookie coach.
I was just a year late, man.
So you were
just a year late.
You were a year late on that?
Or year early.
Yeah,
Year
yeah.
early. That's what I meant to
Yes.
say.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with Brian Dable just because, nobody thought this Giants team would accomplish anything this year, especially to be able to be 6-2 at their bye right now.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, Decker,
and
me and you
doing,
had him
you know-
winning 6 games all year.
Yeah, we both have him at 6-11. Wantuck at 3-14. So, yeah, for him to be able to do what he's doing with that team, with Danny Dimes as his quarterback, and the uncertainty before the season with Saquon, nobody knowing how he was going to perform and what level he would be at coming off that injury last year, and their defense too. I mean, Wink Martindale coming in, from day one, everybody kind of thought like this was obviously a big upgrade at DC, but with the players that they have out there, nobody thought, everybody thought, probably bottom 10, and they're doing good
They're
things for the most
executing
part.
that defense, that scheme very,
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah, so Brian Dable, man, props to him. He, in a team that from the old regime to the new regime, not much turnover as so far as player wise, because most of them were on the roster last year as well. But it's just getting most out of the players this year, and credit goes to Wink Martindale and Brian Dable. But Brian Dable being head coach, man, it's very impressive what they've done, and they'll probably end up making the playoffs. So, yeah, good for Dable.
I agree.
Yeah. Very, very good stuff. Well, thankfully we have enough time to talk about our top 3 teams in terms of most surprising and most disappointing. I think the best way to do this would just for each person to go 3-1 and share briefly. But I think for most of these, I mean mine especially, they're quite self-explanatory, so don't need in-depth analysis. I'll start. My number 3 team is the Atlanta Falcons. Sure, they are 4-4, and going into this year, I thought they had like the weakest roster. But the most surprising aspect, which does feed into my most disappointing, is the fact that they are first in the South right now. That is crazy to think about. I mean, given a team that I'll touch on later, and the number 2, I may have the Giants. Basically, for all the same reasons that Decker just mentioned earlier. Totally surprising. They are this year's Bengals, no question. And then number 1 for me personally is the Seahawks, because I had them at like 2-15. They have more than doubled their win total already at the halfway point. Yeah, Gino has been great. That defense is great, run game great. Pete Carroll looking good. Surprising stuff. Who wants to take the next one?
I guess I will. Yeah, I guess I'll take it. So for my top 3, like surprisingly good teams, my top 2 are the same, just in reverse order. But for 3, I think I'm gonna go I'll go with the Dolphins. Actually, I think I was very, very skeptical about how good that they were gonna be at the beginning of the season, and mainly it was Tua and the head, first year head coach. I was almost certain that they weren't going to be able to make this offense work. But, they're really, really surprising me, actually. I had them with a losing record. So I'm genuinely surprised by them. And then my top 2, I'd go Seahawks at 2, and then Giants at 1 for most surprising.
Okay. Decker, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so 3 for me, I had the Jets.
Okay.
Another New York team that really didn't have, a lot of us thought they were still at least a year or 2 away with Salah and Wilson. And another team that really, they had the 3 first-round draft picks that came in. But to be able to be where they are right now with, Mekhi Becton going out before the year, he was lost all season. Zach Wilson missed the first 4 weeks. And then now you lost Breece Hall for the year, and you lost Elijah Vera Tucker at guard for the year. And to be able to still be where they are right now at 5-3, it's pretty impressive. And Robert Saleh's been doing a great job with that team. He really rallied them around when they started 1-2, and the media was really hating on them and kind of writing them off already for the season. Saleh just said, let them keep talking, and I'm gonna have my guys go out there and just prove everybody wrong, and that's what they've done. And to be 5-3 with all the injuries and everything that's happened to them, really, really impressive. So then for 2-1, I had the same as Tyler. 2, I had the Seahawks, and then 1, I had the Giants for the same reasons, pretty much.
All right. Well, awesome. Moving on, we have our most disappointing teams. I'll start again. I do like it. So I didn't include them, but just a quick honorable mention to the Broncos for all the reasons that we previously stated. Just complete flip on what was going to be good with this team, and that offense is terrible. Russ can't cook. But 3, I have the Packers. Certainly, as a Vikings fan, I'm not disappointed in any emotional way. Just as a football intellectual, it is quite surprising. I thought that with the receiving core, they would eventually figure it out. They still might, but I mean, as of right now, they're 3-5. They haven't, especially with this most recent trade deadline where they did nothing to fix their problems. Still very disappointing. 2, I have the Bucks. Brady gave up his family and his really hot wife to play football, and he's 2 games under 500 for the first time in his career. That's just sad. I genuinely feel bad for Brady. But yeah, Bucks have just been really disappointing. That defense looked good to start the year, but they've been starting to fall off. It's kind of sad. And then Raiders at 2-5 are my number 1. God, what a crappy team.
Yeah.
Decker, your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't even think about the Raiders actually until you mentioned them once. They completely passed over my mind. But for me at 3, I had, and this was my rankings, and this one was kind of hard to correctly place them. But 3, I went with the Chargers. Yes, a lot of it is injuries. They've been just depleted with injuries. But man, I mean, the run defense we thought would improve. You know, last year they were awful, and we thought this year they would take a big jump. But they're just very bad. Their secondary, even when J.C. Jackson came back, which, you know, the team doctors and with the Chargers are awful, but even when he wasn't there, he was very bad. Offense, like Tyler, you had Herbert as MVP for a reason. I mean, I thought this offense, regardless of the receiver play, I thought Herbert and they would just do so much more, and it just hasn't clicked. 2 for me was the Bucks, like you had, Sam, just completely falling off. Their defense just looks worn down. Brady looks worn down. Everything. There's not a single bright spot I can pick out right now on that team. And then 1, I did have the Packers. Again, like the Bucks, defense just seems to be getting worn down because the offense has so many 3-and-outs and just putting together short drives. But I thought, regardless of even losing Devontae, I thought the Packers would really still be able to click this year, and it just hasn't so far. So, again, it was pretty tough for me, but that's what I'm going to roll with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that this year was quite heavy with the disappointing teams.
Yeah.
Like, just teams really underperforming.
I mean,
Tyler, your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, just some quick honorable mentions. I would have to say the Bucks for sure. I don't want to say the Chargers just because of all the injuries, man. It's hard. Like, obviously, you're not going to meet expectations with injuries. I don't want to give them a pass, obviously, but, man, it's tough to overcome all of those. But so, honorable mention to the Bucks, the Chargers, and the Rams. For 3, I have the Packers. I mean, as a Packers fan, I did have high expectations, but, you know, a part of me still knew that this offense was really going to struggle without Devontae Adams. And, you know, that was right, but this is to the extreme of how I thought that they were going to struggle. So, I have them at 3 there. Next, I have the Colts. Colts.
Oh.
When the Colts acquired Matt Ryan, they told him 2 things. They told him that he would be protected by an elite offensive line and that he would be able to rely on elite rushing attack. Neither of those are true. It has been a not great experience for Matt Ryan, who, you know, still behind a good, decent offensive line can game manage and make good plays. But instead they got him injured, and they're 3-4-1. So I have to go with Indy. I thought that they were going to have a much, much better season up until this point. I had them maybe a dark horse playoff team, or make a push in the playoff. And then number 1, I think I'm going to go with the Saints. I had really, really high expectations for the Saints. I thought their defense was absolutely phenomenal. You know, I thought that the coaching staff, I didn't think that the loss of Sean Payton was going to be that big of a deal, and they went what, like 10? Did they win 10 games last season?
Yes.
They still won 10, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I had them winning. Let's see, I had them winning 10 this season too, and so, I just, they look horrible, man. I mean, the quarterback play, their skill positions are always hurt. They can't get anything on the ground, really. Alvin's first really good game was last week. So it's just, it's frustrating to see a team that, you thought had all the talent, all the coaching, like the Saints, like I thought the Saints had, just completely fail. I mean, they are 3-5, but that division is just so weak, So, they're probably my most disappointing team. And then also Jacksonville, they started off so hot and then just sputtered out, man. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, just a really disappointing year overall for a lot of teams, which is quite interesting, honestly. But, guys, do you want to know who my real MVP is this year?
NordVPN?
I wish. Yeah. But no, it is you, the audience, for listening to this episode of the podcast. Aww. I hope you enjoyed listening. And one of the most disappointing and surprising things of this episode would be if you didn't like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. I hope, again, that you enjoyed listening, and have a good night, everyone.